What if I told you that some of the most powerful medicines ever discovered aren't in a pharmacy, aren't in a supplement store, and aren't locked away in a research facility, but growing in forests, gardens, and roadsides all around you? Most people don't know this, but while we're all spending money on pills, creams, and capsules for everything from heart disease to brain fog to chronic inflammation, there are trees out there that have been healing humans for thousands of years, trees that entire civilizations built their medicine around, trees with actual published clinical evidence backing them up, trees that modern science is finally proving work exactly the way our ancestors always knew they did. And today I'm going to show you 15 of them that will completely change the way you think about the trees growing around you. Stick around, because number 2 on this list is the tree that literally gave us aspirin, the original, the real one, growing wild in forests everywhere long before a single pharmaceutical company existed. And number 6, this tree has been growing on Earth for 270 million years. And modern clinical trials show it improves blood flow to the brain better than most prescription medications. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because we post new videos every week connecting ancient plant wisdom with modern clinical evidence, empowering you to take real charge of your health. So let's get into it. Here are 15 medicinal trees that heal you better than any plant, ranked from impressive to absolutely extraordinary.
Number 1. Elderberry, the immune tree. There's a reason that elderberry has been found in nearly every traditional medicine system on Earth. Sambucus nigra grows across Europe, North America, and parts of Asia, producing clusters of tiny dark berries that have been used medicinally since before recorded history. Archaeological evidence suggests elderberry cultivation going back over 10,000 years. Ancient Egyptians used it to improve complexion and heal burns. Hippocrates called the elder tree his medicine chest. Native American tribes independently discovered its medicinal properties across dozens of different nations. That kind of convergence, separate civilizations on opposite sides of the earth arriving at the same medicine, is not coincidence. That is signal. Modern clinical research has validated that signal completely. Multiple published randomized controlled trials show elderberry extract significantly reduces the duration and severity of influenza and the common cold. A 2016 study published in Nutrients found that elderberry supplementation reduced cold duration by an average of 4 days. A 2004 study found elderberry extract cut influenza duration in half compared to placebo. Here is the mechanism. Elderberries contain flavonoids called anthocyanins, particularly cyanidin-3-glucoside and cyanidin-3-sambioside that bind directly to influenza virus particles, preventing them from entering and replicating in host cells. This is not vague antioxidant activity. This is documented antiviral action at the molecular level. The berries also stimulate cytokine production, activating the immune system's first response before an infection establishes itself. This is why elderberry works best when taken at the very first sign of illness. Critical warning: raw elderberries, leaves, and bark contain cyanogenic glycosides that cause nausea and vomiting. Always cook the berries before consuming or use properly prepared commercial preparations. Traditional use: elderberry syrup taken at the first sign of cold or flu, elderberry tea for ongoing immune support during winter months, elderberry tincture as a concentrated immune preparation. Elderberry disappeared from mainstream Western medicine simply because it cannot be patented. A tree that grows wild everywhere offers no profit margin for pharmaceutical companies. But for anyone who wants genuine, clinically validated immune support, the elder tree has been waiting in hedgerows and forests this entire time. It was the medicine chest of the ancient world. Modern clinical trials just confirmed it still is.
Number 2. Willow bark, the original aspirin tree. This is the tree that gave us aspirin. Not inspired aspirin, not led to the discovery of aspirin, literally gave us aspirin, and then watched as we took its active compound, synthesized it in a lab, and created something slightly less balanced and slightly more damaging than the original.
Salix species, white willow, crack willow, purple willow, have been used medicinally for at least 6,000 years. Ancient Egyptian medical papyri from 1550 BC record willow bark preparations for pain and fever. Hippocrates prescribed willow bark tea for fever and pain around 400 BC. Native American tribes across North America independently discovered the same medicinal properties. Medieval European herbalists used it continuously for centuries. In 1828, a German chemist isolated the active compound, salicin. By 1897, Bayer had synthesized acetyl salicylic acid from salicylic acid derived from willow and another plant called meadowsweet. They called it aspirin. They patented it, and the original tree quietly faded from medical consciousness. Modern research confirms willow bark has genuine anti-inflammatory, analgesic, and antipyretic effects, reducing pain, inflammation, and fever through salicylate compounds. Clinical studies show willow bark extract is effective for lower back pain, osteoarthritis, and headaches. Multiple trials have demonstrated analgesic effects comparable to conventional pain medications. Here is what makes willow bark potentially superior to synthetic aspirin for some people. The natural salicylates in willow bark are absorbed more slowly than synthetic aspirin, producing a gentler, more sustained effect with less gastric irritation. The whole bark contains additional compounds that modulate the salicylate activity in ways that isolated acetyl salicylic acid does not. Traditional use: willow bark tea made by simmering the dried inner bark for 10 to 15 minutes, taken for headaches, back pain, fever, and general inflammation. We took its medicine, put it in a white pill, and forgot where it came from. The tree is still standing, still working, still offering what it always has. Number 3. Hawthorn, the heart tree. For centuries, European herbalists had a name for hawthorn. They called it the heart herb, not metaphorically, not poetically, medically. Crataegus species, hawthorn, was the herb that traditional practitioners reached for when someone had a weak heart, irregular pulse, shortness of breath, or poor circulation. And modern cardiology has since confirmed that those traditional herbalists understood something about this thorny hedgerow tree that we are only now fully appreciating. Hawthorn contains a unique combination of oligomeric proanthocyanidins, flavonoids, and triterpene acids that work synergistically on the cardiovascular system. Modern clinical trials, including a large European study called the SPICE trial involving over 2,600 patients, have investigated hawthorn extract for chronic heart failure with promising results. Studies consistently show hawthorn improves exercise tolerance, reduces symptoms of cardiac insufficiency, improves coronary blood flow, and has gentle blood pressure-lowering effects. Here is the mechanism. Hawthorn compounds inhibit an enzyme called phosphodiesterase, increasing the strength of heart muscle contractions without increasing oxygen demand. This is the same basic mechanism as some cardiac medications, but gentler and with a much more favorable safety profile. Hawthorn also dilates coronary arteries, improving blood supply to the heart muscle itself. The berries, leaves, and flowers are all medicinal, each with slightly different compound profiles. The flowers and leaves have the highest flavonoid content. The berries are rich in proanthocyanidins. Traditional use: hawthorn berry tea or tincture taken long-term for heart support. Hawthorn standardized extract for more therapeutic doses. The berries also made into jams and wines across European folk tradition. Important note: hawthorn is a gentle, long-acting herb. Its benefits accumulate over weeks and months of regular use. It is not a fast-acting emergency treatment. European herbalists called it the heart herb for centuries. Modern cardiology spent decades ignoring them. The clinical trials are finally proving them right.
Number 4. Neem, the village pharmacy. In India, the neem tree is called Sarva Roga Nivarini, the curer of all ailments. That is a bold claim,
But when you examine the clinical evidence on Azadirachta indica, the claim begins to seem less like mythology and more like accurate traditional observation. Neem has been used in Ayurvedic medicine for over 4,000 years for an extraordinary range of conditions: skin diseases, infections, dental problems, digestive complaints, fever, diabetes management, and more. Modern research has identified over 130 biologically active compounds in neem, a biochemical complexity that explains its remarkably broad therapeutic activity. The primary compounds include azadirachtin, nimbin, nimbidin, and gudunin, each with documented medicinal properties. Clinical studies confirm antibacterial effects against multiple pathogenic bacteria, including Staphylococcus aureus and E. coli. Studies show antifungal activity against Candida species. Research demonstrates anti-inflammatory effects comparable to aspirin in some models. Clinical trials show neem-based toothpaste and mouthwash significantly reduce plaque, gingivitis, and oral bacteria, leading to neem being incorporated into commercial dental products worldwide. Here's what makes neem practically extraordinary. In rural India, people have used fresh neem twigs as toothbrushes for thousands of years, and modern dental research has confirmed this practice genuinely reduces oral bacteria and improves gum health. The traditional practice was clinically validated centuries after the practice began. Neem oil, pressed from the seeds, has documented insect-repelling properties and is now widely used as a natural pesticide in organic agriculture. The same oil has genuine antifungal properties for skin conditions. Traditional use: neem leaf tea for internal infections and blood sugar support, neem twigs for dental hygiene, neem oil topically for skin conditions and fungal infections, neem bark preparations for fever and digestive complaints. 4,000 years of Ayurvedic use. Modern science has validated more applications than any other tree on this list. The village pharmacy was right all along.
Number 5. Linden, Tilia, the fever tree. Walk through any old European town and you will find linden trees lining the streets and squares. This is not coincidence. Tilia species, linden or lime tree, were planted deliberately in the center of communities for centuries because people understood that this tree was medicine. The flowers, bracts, and inner bark of linden have been used across European traditional medicine for hundreds of years, primarily for fevers, anxiety, respiratory infections, and as a gentle relaxant. Modern research has confirmed the traditional applications with documented pharmacological activity. Linden flowers contain flavonoids, particularly tyloroside and camphorol glycosides, that have genuine anti-anxiety, mild sedative, and antispasmodic effects. Studies show linden flower extracts reduce anxiety in animal models through mechanisms involving GABA receptors, the same pathway targeted by pharmaceutical anti-anxiety medications, but acting much more gently. The diaphoretic properties of linden, its ability to promote sweating, have been confirmed in traditional use for centuries. Hot linden tea taken at the onset of a fever promotes perspiration, helping the body manage fever through its natural mechanism rather than suppressing it chemically. Research also confirms antimicrobial effects of linden extracts against respiratory pathogens, validating the traditional use for coughs, bronchitis, and upper respiratory infections. Here is what makes linden special in the landscape of medicinal trees. It is one of the gentlest. It is safe for children. It is pleasant tasting. The flowers have a delicate, sweet, honey-like aroma that makes the tea genuinely enjoyable. And it works subtly but reliably for anxiety, insomnia, and the early stages of fever and respiratory infection. Traditional use: linden flower tea brewed from dried flowers and bracts. Drunk hot for fever and respiratory infections. Drunk in the evening for anxiety and insomnia. European towns planted it in their centers for centuries. They were building their pharmacy into the landscape itself.
Number 6. Ginkgo, the brain tree. This tree has been on Earth for 270 million years. Let that number settle for a moment. Ginkgo biloba is the oldest living tree species on the planet, a living fossil that survived the asteroid impact that killed the dinosaurs, survived ice ages, survived everything nature threw at it for nearly 300 million years, and it has been used in Chinese traditional medicine for over 5,000 years, specifically for brain function, memory, and circulation. Modern clinical research has made ginkgo one of the most extensively studied medicinal plants in scientific literature, with over 400 published clinical studies. The evidence shows ginkgo extract improves cerebral blood flow, enhances memory and cognitive function, reduces symptoms of age-related cognitive decline, and has genuine neuroprotective properties. Here is the mechanism. Ginkgo contains unique compounds called ginkgolides and bilobolide that are found in no other plant on Earth. These compounds inhibit platelet activating factor, reducing blood viscosity and improving microcirculation throughout the body, particularly in the brain. They also have potent antioxidant activity in neural tissue, protecting brain cells from oxidative damage. Multiple clinical trials show ginkgo extract improves symptoms in patients with mild to moderate dementia and age-related memory decline. Studies show improved performance on cognitive tests, better memory consolidation, and reduced symptoms of tinnitus, ringing in the ears, which is often caused by poor circulation to the inner ear. A large European study called the Guide Age trial followed over 2,800 patients for 5 years, examining ginkgo's effects on Alzheimer's prevention, with significant findings on specific cognitive parameters. Traditional use: standardized ginkgo leaf extract, 120 to 240 milligrams daily of extract, standardized to 24% flavanol glycosides and 6% terpene lactones. This is one case where the standardized extract is more reliable than simple tea preparation. 270 million years of survival, 5,000 years of medicinal use, 400 clinical studies. This tree knows something about longevity that we are only beginning to understand.
Number 7. Black walnut, the anti-parasitic tree. Black walnut is the tree that traditional healers across North America reached for when they suspected parasites, intestinal worms, fungal infections, skin infestations, any kind of unwanted organism living where it should not be. Juglans nigra has been used medicinally by Native American tribes for centuries and was later incorporated into American folk medicine as one of the primary antiparasitic remedies available before pharmaceutical dewormers existed. The green hulls of the unripe black walnut contain extraordinarily high concentrations of juglone and other naphthoquinine compounds that have potent antimicrobial and antiparasitic activity. Modern research confirms genuine antifungal effects against Candida species and other fungi. Studies show antibacterial activity against multiple pathogenic bacteria. Research demonstrates antiparasitic activity against intestinal parasites in laboratory studies. The juglone compound has documented activity against various parasitic organisms through its ability to disrupt their electron transport chain, essentially interfering with their energy production. Black walnut hull is also rich in iodine, one of the highest plant sources available, which contributes additional antimicrobial activity and supports thyroid function. Here's what makes this tree practically fascinating. The same juglone that makes black walnut medicinally powerful also makes it allopathic. It suppresses the growth of competing plants in the soil around it. The tree chemically defends its territory. That same defensive chemistry becomes medicine when used correctly. Traditional use: green black walnut hull tincture, made from the unripe green hulls before they turn black, taken in small amounts for parasitic infections and fungal overgrowth, used topically for skin fungal infections in ringworm. Important note: black walnut preparations are potent. They should not be used long-term or in large amounts, short courses for specific conditions only.
It defends its territory with chemistry so powerful it kills competing plants. That same chemistry has been clearing parasites from human bodies for centuries.
Number 8. Pine, the survival tree. If you were lost in a northern forest with nothing but a knife, the pine tree could keep you alive. Pinus species, found across the northern hemisphere in greater abundance than almost any other tree, have been used as medicine and survival food by virtually every culture that lived among them. Native American tribes across North America used pine extensively, the inner bark as emergency food, pine needle tea for vitamin C, pine resin as wound sealant and antiseptic, pine tar for skin conditions and respiratory problems. Here is the survival nutrition fact that most people do not know. Pine needle tea, made by steeping fresh green pine needles in hot water, contains more vitamin C per serving than orange juice. During the long winters of northern climates, when scurvy was a genuine threat and fresh fruit was unavailable for months, pine needle tea kept entire populations from developing vitamin C deficiency. French explorer Jacques Cartier's crew was saved from scurvy in 1536 by indigenous people who showed them how to make pine needle tea. Modern research has confirmed significant vitamin C content in pine needles, alongside shikimic acid, the same compound used as the primary raw material for synthesizing the antiviral drug Tamiflu. Pine bark extract, sold commercially as pycnogenol, is one of the most studied plant antioxidants available, with documented effects on cardiovascular health, circulation, inflammation, and cognitive function. Pine resin has genuine antimicrobial properties confirmed in laboratory studies. Pine tar, made from destructive distillation of pine wood, has been used for skin conditions including psoriasis and eczema for centuries and remains an active ingredient in some modern dermatological preparations. Traditional use: pine needle tea for vitamin C supplementation, pine bark extract for antioxidant and cardiovascular support, pine resin applied topically to wounds and cuts as a natural antiseptic bandage. When everything else fails and you're standing in a northern forest, the pine tree will keep you alive. It has been doing exactly that for thousands of years.
Number 9. Birch, the detox tree. Birch is the tree of spring across northern Europe and Asia, and that timing is not accidental. Betula species have been used medicinally across northern latitudes for thousands of years, specifically for what traditional healers called cleansing and purifying the body after the long, heavy diet of winter. The sap, leaves, and bark of birch all carry distinct medicinal properties that modern research has confirmed in remarkable detail. Birch sap, collected in early spring when it flows most abundantly, has been consumed as a spring tonic across Scandinavia, Russia, and the Baltic states for centuries. Modern analysis shows birch sap contains xylitol, the natural sugar alcohol now used in dental products for its anti-cavity properties, alongside saponins, organic acids, and mineral salts that support kidney function and gentle detoxification. Birch leaves contain betulicide and other flavonoids with documented diuretic and anti-inflammatory effects. Clinical research confirms birch leaf preparations increase urine output, support kidney function, and reduce inflammation in the urinary tract. European herbal medicine commissions have approved birch leaf preparations for irrigation therapy of urinary tract infections and kidney gravel. Birch bark contains betulin and betulinic acid, compounds with extraordinary properties, currently under active investigation in cancer research for their ability to induce apoptosis, programmed cell death, in cancer cells, while leaving healthy cells unaffected. Traditional use: birch sap drunk fresh in spring is a seasonal tonic. Birch leaf tea for urinary tract support and gentle detoxification. Birch bark preparations used topically for skin conditions. Every spring across the northern world, traditional healers tapped birch trees for medicine. They were harvesting one of the most pharmacologically complex trees in the forest.
Number 10. Horse chestnut, the circulation tree. Horse chestnut is one of the most precisely validated medicinal trees in modern clinical research, and most people in the Western world have never used it as medicine. Aesculus hippocastanum produces those familiar spiny green husks that split open to reveal glossy brown conkers in autumn. Children collect them, most adults ignore them, but the seeds contain a compound called acin, one of the most thoroughly studied natural treatments for venous insufficiency and varicose veins in the entire clinical literature. Multiple high-quality randomized controlled trials have shown horse chestnut seed extract is as effective as compression stockings for reducing the symptoms of chronic venous insufficiency, leg swelling, pain, heaviness, and varicose veins. This is not traditional folklore being generously interpreted. This is rigorous clinical evidence showing equivalence to standard medical treatment. Here is the mechanism. Acin reduces the activity of enzymes that break down the proteoglycans in capillary walls, strengthening the blood vessel walls and reducing their permeability. This decreases fluid leakage into surrounding tissues, reduces swelling, and improves venous tone. The compound also has documented anti-inflammatory effects. European countries have been using horse chestnut seed extract as a mainstream medical treatment for venous disorders for decades. Germany's Commission E, the regulatory body for herbal medicines, approved it for chronic venous insufficiency in the 1990s based on the clinical evidence. Traditional use. Horse chestnut seed extract standardized to 16 to 21% acin, available as capsules or tablets. Topical preparations for varicose veins and hemorrhoids. Important warning: raw horse chestnuts are toxic. Only properly processed and standardized extracts should be used medicinally. Clinical trials proved it works as well as compression stockings for varicose veins. European medicine has known this for decades. The rest of the world is still catching up.
Number 11. Slippery elm, the digestive tree. Native American tribes across eastern North America had a name for slippery elm that translated roughly as the inner bark that heals. Ulmus rubra, slippery elm, produces an inner bark with an extraordinary property. When mixed with water, it forms a thick, viscous mucilage, a gel-like substance that coats and soothes every surface it contacts. And that mucilage has been used for centuries to heal and protect the entire digestive tract, from the mouth to the colon. Modern research confirms the mechanism completely. The mucilage of slippery elm inner bark contains complex polysaccharides that form a protective coating over inflamed mucous membranes. This coating physically protects damaged tissue from acid, bile, and digestive enzymes while the underlying tissue heals. It reduces inflammation, stimulates mucus secretion, and has gentle demulcent effects throughout the entire gastrointestinal system. Clinical evidence supports slippery elm use for inflammatory bowel conditions. A pilot study published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine showed improvement in symptoms of irritable bowel syndrome with constipation predominant pattern. Traditional use for gastric ulcers, acid reflux, Crohn's disease, and colitis is consistent with the known pharmacological activity. Here is what makes slippery elm uniquely valuable. It is one of the safest medicinal tree preparations available, with no documented drug interactions and no known toxicity at normal doses. It is gentle enough for children, for pregnant women, for people with extremely sensitive digestive systems. It simply coats, soothes, and protects. The FDA has approved slippery elm as a safe over-the-counter demulcent, one of the very few herbal preparations to receive this designation. Traditional use: slippery elm powder mixed with warm water into a gruel for gastric ulcers, acid reflux, and inflamed digestive conditions. Slippery elm lozenges for sore throats and mouth ulcers. Native Americans called it the inner bark that heals. The FDA called it safe. Modern gastroenterology is still figuring out it was right all along.
Number 12. Cat's claw, the anti-inflammatory tree. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, there grows a woody vine that wraps around trees with curved thorns shaped exactly like a cat's claws. Uncaria tomentosa has been used by indigenous Amazonian peoples for thousands of years for arthritis, inflammation, infections, digestive problems, and what traditional healers described as cleansing the blood. Spanish missionaries documented its use in the 17th century, and modern research has since identified why this plant has such broad medicinal activity. Cat's claw contains a unique class of compounds called oxindole alkaloids, specifically pentacyclic oxindole alkaloids, that have documented immunomodulating and anti-inflammatory effects. These compounds inhibit the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines, including TNF-alpha and interleukin-6, the same inflammatory mediators targeted by some of the most expensive biological medications used for rheumatoid arthritis. Clinical studies show cat's claw extract significantly reduces pain and inflammation in knee osteoarthritis. A randomized controlled trial published in Inflammation Research showed meaningful reduction in pain scores in osteoarthritis patients. Studies also show DNA repair activity and antioxidant effects in human cells. The bark also contains quinovic acid glycosides with antiviral activity and tannins with antimicrobial properties, contributing to the traditional use for infections and immune support. Here is what makes cat's claw remarkable in context. It comes from a completely different botanical family and geographic origin than most medicinal plants on this list, demonstrating that across every ecosystem on Earth, nature has produced anti-inflammatory medicine. The Amazon produced its own version of what the Mediterranean found in frankincense and the Himalayas found in turmeric. Traditional use, cat's claw bark tea or tincture for arthritis, inflammation, and immune support. Standardized extract for more precise dosing. Indigenous Amazonian healers used it for thousands of years before the rainforest was mapped. Modern rheumatology is only now understanding why.
Number 13. Moringa, the miracle tree. Every part of this tree is medicine. Moringa oleifera grows across tropical and subtropical regions, and in every region where it grows, traditional healers have independently discovered that its leaves, seeds, bark, roots, and flowers each carry distinct healing properties. The Ayurvedic tradition lists over 300 diseases that moringa preparations were used to treat. That number sounds like exaggeration until you examine the biochemistry of this tree. Dried moringa leaves contain more calcium than milk, more vitamin C than oranges, more potassium than bananas, more iron than spinach, and all 9 essential amino acids. This extraordinary nutritional density has made moringa a critical tool in addressing malnutrition in developing countries, where it can be grown easily, harvested continuously, and consumed fresh or dried. But the medicinal properties go far beyond nutrition. Modern research has documented anti-inflammatory effects through inhibition of the same pathways targeted by pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory drugs. Studies show moringa leaf extract has genuine hypoglycemic effects, reducing blood sugar levels, with mechanisms involving improved insulin sensitivity. Clinical research confirms cholesterol-lowering properties and documented antimicrobial activity against multiple pathogens. The seeds of moringa have an extraordinary property that has nothing to do with human medicine, but has saved countless lives. Crushed moringa seeds can purify contaminated water. The seed proteins cause suspended particles and bacteria to clump together and settle out of solution. Traditional communities across Africa and Asia have used this for centuries. Modern water treatment research has confirmed the mechanism. Traditional use, dried moringa leaf powder added to food and drinks for nutritional supplementation, moringa leaf tea for anti-inflammatory and blood sugar support, moringa seed oil, ben oil, used topically for skincare.
300 traditional disease applications. Modern science has validated the mechanisms behind dozens of them. This is the tree that does everything.
Number 14. Eucalyptus, the respiratory tree. There's a reason eucalyptus oil is in almost every chest rub, throat lozenge, and respiratory preparation sold in pharmacies worldwide. Eucalyptus globulus and related species produce leaves containing extraordinary concentrations of a compound called 1,8-cineol, also called eucalyptol. This compound has more documented respiratory effects than almost any other single plant compound in the clinical literature. Modern research shows eucalyptol inhibits the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines in the respiratory tract, reducing airway inflammation. It acts as a mucolytic, thinning mucus secretions and making them easier to clear. It has documented bronchodilatory effects, opening constricted airways, and it has genuine antimicrobial activity against respiratory pathogens, including bacteria, viruses, and fungi. Clinical trials show eucalyptus oil preparations significantly reduce symptoms of sinusitis, bronchitis, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. A randomized controlled trial published in Respiratory Medicine showed significant improvement in COPD symptoms with oral eucalyptol supplementation. Multiple studies confirm reduction of exacerbation frequency in chronic respiratory conditions. Indigenous Australian Aboriginal peoples had been using eucalyptus leaves for respiratory conditions, wounds, and fever for thousands of years before European colonization. When European settlers arrived and eventually studied the plant, they found clinical validation for essentially every traditional application. Here is what makes eucalyptus practically remarkable. Steam inhalation with a few drops of eucalyptus oil in hot water delivers eucalyptol directly to the respiratory tract, the most effective route of administration for respiratory conditions. This is traditional medicine and optimal drug delivery simultaneously. Traditional use: eucalyptus steam inhalation for chest congestion, sinusitis, and bronchitis. Eucalyptus oil chest rub for respiratory support. Eucalyptus tea for mild respiratory infections. Aboriginal Australians used it for thousands of years. It is now in every pharmacy on Earth. The tree got there before the pharmaceutical industry did.
Number 15. Papaya, the tree I saved for last because its medicinal properties work through a mechanism unlike anything else on this list. Carica papaya. The papaya tree produces a fruit that most people know only as a tropical food, but the unripe green papaya, the seeds, the leaves, and the white latex that flows from cuts in the skin all contain something extraordinary: a protein-digesting enzyme called papain, one of the most powerful proteolytic enzymes found in any plant on Earth. Papain has been used for thousands of years across tropical Asia, Africa, and the Americas for wound healing, digestive support, and anti-inflammatory treatment. Traditional healers applied green papaya flesh directly to infected wounds. They gave papaya leaf tea for digestive complaints. They used the latex for skin conditions. Modern research has validated all of these applications and added several more. Papain breaks down protein structures with extraordinary efficiency, which is why it is used commercially as a meat tenderizer. In the body, this proteolytic activity has multiple medical applications. Studies show papain accelerates wound healing by breaking down damaged protein in dead tissue. It reduces inflammation by breaking down inflammatory protein complexes. It improves digestion by supplementing the body's own protein-digesting enzymes. But the most extraordinary modern finding involves papaya leaves. Multiple clinical studies, including several conducted in dengue fever patients, show papaya leaf extract significantly increases platelet counts in patients with dengue thrombocytopenia. The mechanism is still being investigated, but the clinical signal is consistent and strong enough that papaya leaf preparations are now used in dengue treatment protocols in several Asian countries. Papaya seeds have documented anti-parasitic effects. A randomized trial published in the Journal of Medicinal Food showed dried papaya seeds significantly reduced intestinal parasites in Nigerian children compared to placebo. Traditional use: green papaya flesh applied topically to infected wounds and slow-healing ulcers, papaya leaf tea for platelet support and dengue fever management, papaya seeds dried and consumed for anti-parasitic effects, fresh, ripe papaya eaten regularly for digestive enzyme support. An enzyme so powerful it tenderizes meat, used in wound dressings, dengue treatment, anti-parasitic protocols, and most people just eat it for breakfast without knowing what it actually is.
Number 13. Moringa, the miracle tree. Every part of this tree is medicine. Moringa oleifera grows across tropical and subtropical regions, and in every region where it grows, traditional healers have independently discovered that its leaves, seeds, bark, roots, and flowers each carry distinct healing properties. The Ayurvedic tradition lists over 300 diseases that moringa preparations were used to treat. That number sounds like exaggeration until you examine the biochemistry of this tree. Dried moringa leaves contain more calcium than milk, more vitamin C than oranges, more potassium than bananas, more iron than spinach, and all 9 essential amino acids. This extraordinary nutritional density has made moringa a critical tool in addressing malnutrition in developing countries, where it can be grown easily, harvested continuously, and consumed fresh or dried. But the medicinal properties go far beyond nutrition. Modern research has documented anti-inflammatory effects through inhibition of the same pathways targeted by pharmaceutical anti-inflammatory drugs. Studies show moringa leaf extract has genuine hypoglycemic effects, reducing blood sugar levels, with mechanisms involving improved insulin sensitivity. Clinical research confirms cholesterol-lowering properties and documented antimicrobial activity against multiple pathogens. The seeds of moringa have an extraordinary property that has nothing to do with human medicine, but has saved countless lives. Crushed moringa seeds can purify contaminated water. The seed proteins cause suspended particles and bacteria to clump together and settle out of solution. Traditional communities across Africa and Asia have used this for centuries. Modern water treatment research has confirmed the mechanism. Traditional use: dried moringa leaf powder added to food and drinks for nutritional supplementation. Moringa leaf tea for anti-inflammatory and blood sugar support. Moringa seed oil, ben oil, used topically for skincare. 300 traditional disease applications. Modern science has validated the mechanisms behind dozens of them. This is the tree that does everything.